Welcome everyone to FL Teams. It's the start of college football, and that means this is the bulk of our content that we produce because we love college football. And what do we love, especially EJ? Sunshine State matchups, and that's what we got on Saturday between the
Mhm.
Miami Hurricanes and Florida Gators. EJ, how's it going?
It's good, buddy. It's good. Ready to started to kick off this season. Ready to keep it going.
Yeah, so obviously it was a big game. It was supposed to be a thriller. It wasn't really a thriller. It wasn't close to a thriller. It was instead a blowout. And that's what we're going to discuss today. We're going to break down Miami's matchup with Florida that took place in the swamp. Again, I'm Isaac Edelman. This is EJ Farbman here on FL Teams. We produce content from all across the state of Florida. So, with that said, EJ, talk about the big win that Miami had and mention why they really had that win. And I think you're going to mention some guy named Cam Ward.
Yeah. So first time in biggest loss in Florida's 118-year existence, biggest home loss in Florida's 118-year existence. But on top of that, Ken Dorsey was quarterbacking Miami the last time they beat Florida in the swamp. Guess what Miami did that same year? They went on to win a national championship game. So you have someone as electrifying as Ken Ward. You have Damian Martinez, Mark Fletcher in the backfield, an SEC caliber offensive line from a size perspective and now a talent perspective. And then you have the multitude of weapons they have on the outside and Elijah Arroyo lining up at the tight end spot. I think that with what they did in the trajectory that is ahead and with the I don't know the last time Miami's had momentum quite like this, at least to start the year. So this is big. This is big. And then when you have a leader like Cam Ward, chirping at players on the sideline, as soon as he threw that bad pick across the body, he says, "Give me the tablet." He goes over, he looks at where he messed up at. His placement was off, his balance was off, his feet were off. The dude even talked after the game. This is the most prepared I've ever been for a football game. And the guy's been playing college football for a little while now. So it's exciting. It's exciting, man.
Yeah, so Cam Ward, the ex-Washington State quarterback, obviously was a huge transfer pickup for Miami, and it immediately showed in game one. A lot of people had mentioned, and no one really said that he wasn't a good quarterback, but they mentioned his struggles on the road. And for him to come out in the swamp with a huge crowd and dominate was just huge. He had 3 touchdowns. He had 385 yards. And this is exactly what Miami wanted. They wanted to start off the season on a good note. They were already ranked. So, in order to keep the ranking alive, you need to win games. And EJ, let me ask you, right, when it comes to the Miami Hurricanes year after year, they always have high expectations. And a lot of times they produce early on in the season, but as the season progresses, everything starts to go down. And every time Miami fans say this is the year, you actually think this is the year? Because based off week one, it does look like this is the year. But I guess we say that almost every year.
I want to be a realist at the same time as I want to be a fan. I think obviously with the 12-team playoff expansion, it gives us a better opportunity. And if you look at the ACC, I think Georgia Tech's going to be tough this year. Clemson's not the same team of old because Dabo won't, dip his toe into the transfer pool. I think this is our year from an ACC championship perspective. But then once you get into the college football playoff, everything kind of resets. Season kind of starts over because it's one and done. So realistically, as a fan, yes, I want to say this is our year. I think this has been more of our year than we've had in recent history, or really within the past 15 or 20 years. But then from a realist perspective, I do think this is our year to at least make some outstanding noise in the ACC, some outstanding noise from the recruiting perspective, and then some outstanding noise maybe in the first, second round of the college football playoff.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And what I loved about what Miami did against the Gators, and it might, say a lot about maybe the Gators defense not being ready, but Miami's play calling was, one of the best I've seen it in a while. And that's obviously because Cam Ward, gives you a little more, right? More options. But Xavier Restrepo looked like one of the best wide receivers in college football. They even got Cam McCormick involved, the 9th-year player. They just looked like a good football team. And then, of course, when Cam Ward didn't have the ball on the ground, it was Damian Martinez and Mark Fletcher Jr. So all around, the Canes played well. And the defense also played well. But that's where, I want to mention the Gators, right? Obviously, Billy Napier, not one of the best play callers in football. The Gators also don't have one of the best offensive weapons in college football. So they did as much as they could. But what they could have done more with is DJ Lagway. And he did come in, but not because of choice, because of injury to Graham Mertz, who had a concussion. So let me ask you, EJ. Now, I'm obviously not just a Gator fan, but I'm a Gator student, and we love DJ Lagway around here, and that's because he's a star freshman quarterback, arguably the best freshman in all of college football, arguably the best backup, yes, better than Arch Manning. And when he came in, obviously it was too little too late, but he looked good. And just how I mentioned Cam Ward and how when he's at quarterback, the Canes could do a lot. When Lagway's in at quarterback, the Gators could do a lot. So, EJ, talk about that quarterback battle. And it probably wouldn't have made a difference, but just talk about how Lagway made the Gators look much better late in the game.
Yeah, I think obviously whether it was Graham Mertz or whether it was the play calling, you guys have a really good weapon in Trey Wilson, the little receiver that lines up in their slot outside. They run him on jet sweeps, whatever the case is. I mean, he only had 3 targets. I don't think they did a good enough job getting him involved, but when Lagway got to the game, Lagway, he's a big physical specimen. He's 6'3", 6'4", 220 plus pounds, has a rocket arm. Everyone's seen his high school highlights. He can throw it flat-footed, cross-platform, 60 yards down the field, no problem. But the biggest thing, and I know Mertz has a little mobility to him, but the biggest thing with Lagway, and we saw a couple times, is being able to extend the play outside the pocket. And I think with not having the greatest offensive line, having kind of almost like a little bit of a running back by committee, I'd say right now, even though y'all did have that running back that came back from having that small knee procedure, which he had a huge 70-yard run. I think Lagway gives more because of his ability to extend the play and his ability to if he needs to cut up field and pick up 6 or 7 yards. If you can stay in front of the chains on first down and you can have positivity on first down and second down, it sets you up for those more manageable third downs, the 3rd and shorts, or even a 4th and short if you're in that no man's land. So yeah. I liked Lagway in high school. I did. And I want to say I like him less now because he's a Gator, but at the same time, it doesn't take away from his talent. It doesn't. Yeah. He's still a physical specimen. He still has a rocket arm. And he just played against a Hurricane defense that held Trey Wilson to 3 receptions, held Graham Mertz for, I think he was like 11 for 20 for 90 yards. So I think Lagway's better because he gives that overall extension of a play.
And that's important because as we saw, the Gators' offensive line was horrible. Now, yes, Miami's defensive line is incredible, but still, the Gators in the SEC, and they're going to face a ton of tough teams. So you can't make an excuse that, okay, this defense is good, because what are the Gators going to do? Face a lot of those defenses. So here's what it comes down to. Obviously, the Gators would have struggled with or without DJ Lagway because that O-line wasn't holding up. But Lagway would have gave them a few more receptions here, and that means a few more first downs, and you never know what that leads to. Look, Montrell Johnson is as solid of a running back as you can get, but every SEC team has a running back like that. So in order to win games, you can't rely on Montrell Johnson. He's not a superstar, but he's solid as it gets, and that's fine. I'm not saying that you need to be more than solid, but in the SEC, if you're going to have a solid running back, you better have solid receivers. They got a Badger from Arizona State. He's speedy. Yeah. But again, you couldn't utilize him because, the one deep throw you made to him, he had no separation, so credit to the Canes. But Mertz has no time to throw that deep ball. And again, Lagway will have more time. But either way, Billy Napier needs to figure out this offensive line situation. And when I say figure it out, there's no making them better this year. It's not going to happen. Instead, you have to figure out the play calling. And the easy option is you have someone named DJ Lagway to come into play.
Yeah. And I think to your point too, from a offensive line play calling perspective, if you don't have the offensive line, because you got to play the Georgias, you got to play the Tennessees, you got to play the. Yeah. I think Florida has, if I'm right, they have the toughest schedule in the country this year.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and no one's going to deny that.
And so from that perspective, you talking about offensive line and changing that scheme, this offensive line, which Ruben Bain didn't even play past the first series, just soft tissue injury. What I heard, he's going to be fine. But still, when you play against the stout of the stout from a defensive line perspective, blitzing, all kinds of different schemes, you need to equip that offensive line to play. They're not going to hold up for 3 or 5 second, 5 or 7 step drops. It's got to be quick. It's got to be out of pocket. It's got to be read option type offense. And I think that's the only way that Florida's going to succeed is if they don't have Mertz or even Lagway dropping back 5 or 7 steps, settling into the pocket. There's not going to be a pocket created with that offensive line. It just is what it is.
Just look at Miami, right? And what Cam Ward was able to do. He had like a dozen plays where he had like 7 seconds. I mean,
there was a couple plays where it felt like he had a whole play clock to throw the ball.
And guess what, EJ? Had he not thrown some balls earlier, I bet he would have had more plays where he could have just hung back there in the pocket. So here's the thing, right? A lot of Gator fans, including myself, we didn't necessarily have high expectations, but we had expectations to have a winning record, which would be incredible against, this tough schedule. Here's the thing, though, right? It doesn't matter how solid of a roster you had. If you look what happened against Miami, you just got outplayed in all facets of the game. And that tells you that, oh, wait, it's not just a Miami issue. It's a Gator issue because the Gators are going to play teams that are better than Miami, whether you like it or not. And here's the main thing I want to talk about, right? I mean, we could dive as deep as we want. Yeah. But Miami didn't just win big, but they were able to showcase a variety of players, including their freshmen. I mean, OJ Frederique Jr. got the start at cornerback. I covered him at St. Thomas Aquinas in Deerfield Beach. Jordan Lyle even got some snaps. He also went to St. Thomas Aquinas. I just wish we saw Josiah Trader, who's another weapon that you could use. Look, the reason I'm mentioning these things is this is not just a one-year thing. This is a multiple-year thing. But in order to have it go on for a few years and not just 1 year, you need to have Mario Cristobal as your head coach. And this is a huge win because, again, Cristobal and Napier are both at the hot seat. And both of them couldn't get wins. Only one could get wins, and it was Cristobal. So touch on Cristobal and how we could turn around this team because he's done great recruiting-wise, but they just need to get wins, and they're starting off well.
Yeah, and I think, obviously, we all saw the Georgia Tech slip-up last year, not knowing the time or the down and distant, whatever it was. You run a play, and it doesn't need to be ran. So Cristobal actually went out, or somebody went out and hired – a time management piece of personnel for that. So they can say, hey, they can tug on a shirt and say, hey, Mario, there's only a minute left. There's no point in putting the ball on the ground. Kneel it out. Let's get out of here with a W. But I think even away from Mario, I still think Cam Ward is the biggest difference maker. Miami of past, right? We had that Tyler Van Dyke area, which if anybody watched him at Wisconsin the other day, he laid a freaking egg. He should have thrown 3 picks. 2 of them got dropped. And there's been, I mean, ever since Brad Kaya really, and Stephen Morris wasn't bad either, there's been no consistency at the quarterback position. So I think that Mario is going to do his job. He's going to recruit. He's going to motivate. You have Shannon Dawson running that and Lance Guidry, Shannon running the offense, Lance running the defense. Let them do their job. Don't try to micromanage. Know the play clock, know the down, know the distance, have situational awareness. And now he has a quarterback in Cam Ward where he can say, hey, you go take care of you, dude. You can put full trust in him and know that he's going to take care. So I think Mario's biggest thing this year is going to be letting his offensive coordinator, his defensive coordinator, his quarterback, probably one of the Heisman favorites now, do their thing. Don't micromanage. Mario's going to recruit. We know that he's a heck of a recruiter, and he'll probably get to rebat on some of the swings and misses he had earlier on. With like DJ Pickett, who committed to LSU. Some of those guys are going to be looking back now and saying, "Wait a second, I may want to relook into this." Yeah. Mario's doing his job fine. Recruit, get the guys in there that are for that culture, the culture you want, the identity you want, and let everyone else do their job.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something about Miami. Even though they looked really good, we can't get too far ahead of ourselves because they're going to look like one of the best college football teams in the country in 2 weeks because they're going to start off the season 3-0. They play Florida A&M and Ball State at home. They're going to dominate. If they dominated the Gators, no offense to the people that hate the Gators, but the Gators are a solid team. It's just they're not Miami level. But they dominated Florida. So imagine what they're going to do to Florida A&M and Ball State.
And then they have USF. They have USF after that too. So
USF
not a cakewalk, but shouldn't be a Florida Gator level opponent. You know what I mean?
I'm in no way going to start off a conversation about USF and preview that game because we'll have our own episode on that. We have plenty of Miami contributors you. We have USF contributors. Here's the thing, though. Whatever you think about USF, they're going to have 2 home games in the next 2 weeks to test play calls, to do whatever they want, because you already know how solid Miami is. Most week 1 games, like FAU played Michigan State, UCF dropped 50 points, blah, blah, blah. You don't play the toughest teams, but Miami started off with Florida, and now they can take a break for the next 2 weeks to get ready for USF. Nonetheless, Miami looks really good. Mario Cristobal is getting colder in terms of being on the hot seat. Nonetheless, EJ, what are your expectations for the next few weeks? Will we see the same of what we saw yesterday against Florida?
I mean, I think you'll see more, just because it's, when you compare Ball State and when you compare Florida A&M to UF and what their talent level is, it's a lack thereof. You know what I mean? Probably not as much of a lack thereof coaching anymore, because Billy Napier is, he's probably getting pretty heated up on that hot seat. But you can't compare the talent. Florida has leaps and bounds talent above what Ball State can offer and what Florida A&M can offer. So I think that you'll see, the players like you talked about, Josiah Trader, Jordan Lyle, you'll see those guys get a lot more run and get a lot more comfortable, because I think as the season goes on, you have to have those guys prepared. And it's not to say that they're whining and crying and complaining to get on the field, but, knock on wood, you never know when injury can take place. And you want those guys to have as many game speed reps as possible. So I think this next 2 weeks, I don't think they're going to open up the playbook per se and do things that they may do in the UCF game or USF game and forward. But I think you'll see the Jordan Lyles, the Josiah Traders, the Riley Williams, the younger guys get some solid run in those big time offense. And you may even see them with Cam Ward on the field, so they can get an idea for timing and placement and rapport and things like that.
So here's the thing now with the Gators, right? It's a similar situation in terms of they play Samford next week, but that's their only easy game of the season. UCF, they may not even be in the safe zone because, well, we don't know how bad UF is going to be or how good they're going to be. Here's the thing. Against Samford, DJ Lagway might play, not just because he's the better option than Mertz, but Mertz is in the concussion protocol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's say Lagway plays and the Gators drop 40 points. Doesn't matter. Mertz would have dropped 40 points too. It's Samford at home. Here's the thing, though, EJ. The Gators, unlike Miami, don't have any other games besides Samford to figure something out. I know. And if Lagway plays this week and then you go back to Mertz, there's going to be no rapport. Napier is already on the hot seat, hotter than ever before. You're coming off one of the worst losses in Gator history. And what's going to happen? The stress is just going to pile up and up and up, because guess what? You're not just going to be losing against top teams, but you're going to have no close games, right? If you didn't have a close game against Miami, how do you expect to have a close game against Georgia, Ole Miss, LSU, FSU? All I'm saying is that the Gators are in trouble, whether you like it or not, but there could be a level of trouble. Could it be this low or could it be this high? Yeah. And this game against Samford is actually bigger than the average person thinks. They're going to win. Yeah. Here's the thing, though. How are they going to win?
Yeah. Hey, I tell you this, if I'm Billy Napier and I'm already on the hot seat, right? It is what it is. He's on the hot seat already. I'm riding that hot seat with DJ Lagway. Because over the past couple of years, it's probably not going to work out with Graham Mertz, right? It is what it is. Not to say people should think any less of Graham Mertz from a personal perspective, but from a talent perspective, DJ has a lot of tools that have been untapped. Yeah. And I think the Samford game next week, it gives him the ability. I mean, he had 2 good drives against Miami. Yeah. He had a scoring drive against Miami. They moved the ball pretty well. I think it was a pick that he threw to Misha Powell, or was that the Graham Mertz?
Well, no. Lagway did throw an interception. I don't know who it was to, but
it was to Misha Powell. Yeah, it was.
His arm got tipped. There was like that
was Jaden Harris when he fell on his back.
It was like a foul it was a foul like in basketball. So
Yeah. So, I think that if I'm going to go down, I got to go down swinging with Lagway. I think that he offers the most upside, the most potential, and he's a number 1 5-star plus prospect. Yeah, like people are expecting him to be on the field anyway.
And if you really are down on the Gators, at least getting Lagway in is going to prepare him for next year when the Gators are actually expected to compete. They were expected to compete this year, but with that schedule and with Mertz at quarterback, just preparing Lagway for next year. So next year is not his first go. Yep. This year would be his first go.
And I think to your point too, next year being his first go, maybe, I'm not saying that there's anything definite about it, but maybe if you roll with Lagway and he has progressions throughout the year, you obviously you have a tough schedule, but let's say you play some of those closer with Lagway than you potentially would with Mertz. Maybe Napier's season is saved for next year because now Lagway he's had some game reps, he's had some experience, he's built some rapport, he's been through the game day motions as a starter rather than just watching your golden prospect just sit on the bench. Maybe it'll save Napier another year. I don't know.
Yeah, you broke that down perfectly because you're mentioning the impacts of this loss to Miami. It's more than just a loss, and it's more than, oh, Napier could potentially get fired. It's tough because of this loss, the Gators are not just talking about having a terrible season this year. You're talking about the future, not just Napier, but Lagway. Yeah. And after Napier, maybe who do you hire? It's so tough as a Gator fan right now because you're still trying to figure out how close will these games be? Do I pay for tickets? Do I go to games? Yeah. Here's where I'm at, right? It's not even about Napier anymore. It's about competing. I don't care if you lose to LSU or Ole Miss. I want it to be a fight. I want it to be a one-possession game come the fourth quarter. The crowd is going crazy. That's what will save Napier a job because Napier has the commits. He has DJ Lagway. He's going to be fine if he stays. Any coach is going to be fine if he stays. But it's just the way you go about it, right? Napier is going to be critiqued every little decision he makes. And Napier is now going to make decisions not even to win games, but to keep his job.
Yep. And I think the worst thing that could happen is with Lagway, because he is a freshman. He's a highly touted prospect when he was in high school. Yeah. The worst thing you can do right now is play coaching carousel with him. You fire Napier, you bring someone else in, they don't work out. And so I don't know any head coaches that come in somewhere that they just adopt the system that was there before. You look at DeBoer from the Nick Saban area. He's got more of a spread style offense than what Saban had, which fits Jalen Milroe's athletic description better. I don't see how maybe not sticking with Napier isn't maybe the best option, but going through coaches, like they're a pair of underwear. I just don't see how you can do it because it's going to ruin the development of Lagway. You're never going to see his potential. Gator fans out there, you're never going to see this kid's potential if you go through a coaching carousel. Yeah. Now, if you get a knock out of the park and you get someone that was highly touted and he stays for 2 or 3 years for pretty much Lagway's college career, that's different. But if you get rid of Napier, if you have an interim or you have somebody that is like, oh, this can be like a bridge, you can't bridge with talent like Lagway. Yeah. That's not what those guys are for. You bridge with talent like Graham Mertz. You don't bridge with talent like DJ Lagway.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think this loss to Miami obviously puts a lot of stress on the AD Scott Strickland. But it really sends a message that the Gators don't just want to, lose games and have an under 500 record, but there's, no place for losing to rivals, right? I mean, you've already lost to FSU plenty enough. They're arguably the best team in Florida. And now you're losing to Miami. So it's not just about, not having a winning season. You can't lose to these rivals, right? I think, there was a video surfacing on Twitter of Mario Cristobal, doing the chomp and then breaking it. And
he broke over his leg. Yeah, he went. Yeah. And then the second one, he broke over his leg.
That should get Gator fans and Gator staff so mad, right?
It's no different than someone coming here and then dropping it. It's or the horns down. It's the same thing. It's disrespect to the program.
So, look, bottom line, you're running an SEC program, and yes, it's all about the money, and you need a win to get money. So, nonetheless, this was a great breakdown. EJ, any final words? Because, hey, the floor is yours. Miami had a big win.
Yeah. So, it'll look like I'm just saying it because it already happened. I had a talk with my buddy who runs a pretty decent sized Canes page, five-time national champs. Y'all go check him out if you can. On Instagram as 5-time national champs. Great South Florida sports guy. Great Miami Hurricane cover guy as well. We were talking the other day about, the X factor for Miami for this year. And, without picking a star player like Cam Ward or Xavier Restrepo or Damian Martinez, we picked someone that, was either possibly coming back from injury or someone that was a freshman coming up that you'll think, I had two this year. One of them is Elijah Arroyo. Battled injury the past 2 years. Obviously now I think he had 5 receptions for 80 yards or 4 receptions for 80 yards. People are going to say, well, that's just because he had a good game. Now you're saying it. No, I've got the receipt saved. I talked about this weeks ago with a buddy of mine. Elijah Arroyo has all the tools. He's got all the tools. He runs like a deer, big frame, big body, great catch radius, can get downhill and block if you need him to. And one of my favorite freshmen coming in, he's a Brevin Jordan prototype, just with more running back skill, is Elijah Lofton out of Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. The dude is an absolute. If you don't know him, go check him out. The dude is an absolute freak. He had the kind of the last play of the game that they really ran. It was a little dump off to the flats for him, and he took it 30 yards down the field. He had a couple runs before. The dude possesses all the talent and all the potential you could ask for. He's kind of like I said, a Brevin Jordan prototype, not a big tight end, but someone who creates a lot of mismatches. So I'm excited for those two guys this year. Obviously, Cam Ward, Xavier Restrepo, all the big name players that there's excitement for regardless. But those two in general, Elijah Lofton and Elijah Arroyo, both two Elijahs. I'm so excited to see them play because the potential for them is some of the. I've been watching Miami football for a long time. The potential for the two of them, if Elijah Arroyo can stay healthy, is through the roof, and it's just more weapons for that offense, like they don't have enough already.
Yeah, no, definitely. And EJ, great analysis as always from the Canes. I'm kind of upset it has to be in this situation, but oh well. It's always great having you on here on FL Teams. Remember, guys, check out at FL Teams on all social media platforms. Yes, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, you name it, and FLTeams.com, which is your go-to one-stop shop for all Florida sports coverage. We'll have content across the state, both collegiately and professionally. NFL's coming back soon. And then, hey, it's only week 1 of the college football season. Yeah. So if you're pumped up now, wait till we really get into the meat of the season.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, for EJ, I'm Isaac Edelman. Thanks so much for watching FL Teams. Again, the Miami Hurricanes coming off a big win over the Florida Gators.